All right, the behavioral theory is what we're going to be talking about next. And the behavioral theory says that personality is a result of the interaction between an individual and their environment. So here's our person, and then this is the environment, whether it's society. We'll draw a few houses here. There you go, you got the picture. So basically what I've drawn here is one island and another island and a bridge connecting both. Okay, so the behavioral theory says that we interact with our environment, and it's also focused on observable and measurable behavior rather than mental or emotional behaviors. So there's different types of behaviors, and different theories focus more on one type of behavior over the other.
Behaviorism is an approach to study behavior based only on what can be directly seen. Behaviorists focus on relationships between stimuli and responses. Unseen qualities such as states of mind were not used in this type of study, even though we know that the mind plays a part in all advanced animals' behaviors. Behaviorism states that behavior can be studied without knowing what the physiology of an event is, and without using theories such as that of the mind. Behaviorism also relied on another idea, that all human behavior was learned as a result of influences from past experiences. However, behaviorists denied the importance of inherited behaviors, instincts, or inherited tendency to behave. In behaviorism, humans, when born, are thought not to have mental experience or knowledge, and that everything is learned after they grow. The blank slate premise is opposed by modern evolutionary psychology. Today, ideas from behaviorism are used in cognitive behavioral therapy to help people deal with anxieties and phobias, as well as with certain forms of addiction.
So when looking at this, if this is the behavioral theory, is this island right here, I guess we can say the psychoanalytic theory over here would be the most opposite, because this theory focuses on mental behavior rather than observable behavior. And behavioral theorists don't care for theories that take thoughts and feelings into account. So let's talk about two important theorists of the behavioral theory. And the first is Skinner. So Skinner was a strict behaviorist, and he's associated with the concept of operant conditioning, which you may have heard of before. So operant conditioning uses rewards and punishments to increase or decrease a behavior.
Operant conditioning is a type of associative learning process through which the strength of a behavior is modified by reinforcement or punishment. Although operant and classical conditioning both involve behaviors controlled by environmental stimuli, they differ in nature. In operant conditioning, behavior is controlled by external stimuli. For example, a child may learn to open a box to get the sweets inside, or learn to avoid touching a hot stove. In operant terms, the box and the stove are discriminative stimuli. Operant behavior is said to be voluntary, as the responses are under the control of the organism.
And another behaviorist, Pavlov, who is a Russian physiologist, and he's also considered by many as the father of behaviorism. He's associated with classical conditioning, and he used his famous dog example, the Pavlov dog experiment, to show what classical conditioning was. It basically places a neutral stimulus with an unconditional stimulus to trigger an involuntary response. So in the case of the dogs, ringing a bell in the presence of food is what caused the dogs to begin salivating, triggered that involuntary response.
Classical conditioning is a behavioral mechanism in which a biologically potent stimulus such as food is paired with a previously neutral stimulus such as a bell. It also refers to the learning process that results from this pairing, through which the neutral stimulus comes to elicit a response that is usually similar to the one elicited by the potent stimulus. Classical conditioning was first studied in detail by Ivan Pavlov, who conducted experiments with dogs and published his findings in 1897. During the Russian physiologist's study of digestion, Pavlov observed that the dogs serving as his subjects drooled when they were being served meat. Classical conditioning is a basic behavioral mechanism, and its neural substrates are now beginning to be understood. Together with operant conditioning, classical conditioning became the foundation of behaviorism, a school of psychology which was dominant in the mid-20th century and is still an important influence on the practice of psychological therapy and the study of animal behavior.
So these theorists, Skinner and Pavlov, believe that the environment determines the behavior. So that's why I put ourselves in our environment. We're shaped by the environment. And people have consistent behavior patterns because we have particular kinds of response tendencies. But these responses can change if we encounter a new situation, and that's why our personality develops over our entire lifespan. It's constantly evolving and changing.
Personality is a dynamic and organized set of characteristics possessed by a person that uniquely influences their environment, cognition, emotions, motivations, and behaviors in various situations. The word personality originates from the Latin persona, which means mask. Personality also refers to the pattern of thoughts, feelings, social adjustments, and behaviors consistently exhibited over time that strongly influences one's expectations, self-perceptions, values, and attitudes. Personality also predicts human reactions to other people, problems, and stress. Gordon Allport in 1937 described two major ways to study personality, the nomothetic and the adiagraphic. Nomothetic psychology seeks general laws that can be applied to many different people, such as the principle of self-actualization or the trait of extroversion. Adiagraphic psychology is an attempt to understand the unique aspects of a particular individual.
Now, what is this bridge in the middle connecting one extreme of behaviorism to the other, the mental approach to the observable approach? Now, it's not to say one is right over the other. There's just two different approaches of personality. Okay, so back to this, the bridge. The bridge in the middle is what we're going to call the cognitive theory. And the cognitive theory is considered a bridge between classic behaviorism and other theories that emphasize thinking and behaviors such as the psychoanalytic theory. And it's because the cognitive theory treats thinking as a behavior and has much in common with the behavioral theory. So Albert Bandura combines the concepts of observing, thinking, and behaving in the social cognitive theory.
Bandura was responsible for contributions to the field of education and to several fields of psychology, including social cognitive theory, therapy, and personality psychology, and was also of influence in the transition between behaviorism and cognitive psychology. He is known as the originator of social learning theory and the theoretical construct of self-efficacy, and is also responsible for the influential 1961 Bobo doll experiment. The initial phase of Bandura's research analyzed the foundations of human learning and the willingness of children and adults to imitate behavior observed in others. He found that according to social learning theory, models are an important source for learning new behaviors and for achieving behavioral change in institutionalized settings. Social learning theory became one of the theoretical frameworks for entertainment education, a method of creating socially beneficial entertainment pioneered by Miguel Sabido,